So we have seen the rise of fascism as of now. We have tried to trace the ideological meaning of fascism. We have understood about the fascist movement, and we also have met its leader, Benito Mussolini. But now we have to discuss how fascism or the fascist movement reached its ultimate political legitimacy and ended up being in control of Italy and also becoming the primary ideology of Italy. So, the fascist movement already was underway. We have seen how much support the fascist movement was gathering. But there was a problem which Mussolini realized. The fascist movement was not organized. In Italy, already there was this demand for a strong and able leader, and the people wanted Mussolini to be that leader. But for that to happen, Mussolini had to organize his movement. And that is exactly what he did in 1919. So Mussolini organized the fascist movement in 1919 in a conference at Milan, which is a city in Italy, and he called the fascist movement as the Fasci di Combattimento, which in Italian means fighting leagues. Now, before this, there had been attempts to organize the fascist movement, but those were too socialist and therefore they were abandoned by Mussolini. This was the first attempt which really worked, and therefore the fascist movement came to be organized into the Fasci di Combattimento, and the name, as it suggests, has a very militaristic tone to it. The people who joined this organized movement or the combattimentos were called the fascists. Now, who were these people? Who were the ones who joined this particular organized movement? Well, it included everyone from disgruntled or angry ex-soldiers who had fought in the First World War and now had no other job. It also included landowners and property owners who did not like the economic toll which the government of Italy was putting due to all the crises that it was not being able to handle. It also included angry socialists who no longer believed in the Socialist Party to really bring any change. It also included farmers who were hungry, who were facing the economic crisis and thought that the only option they had was in trusting Mussolini. And of course, it included the unemployed youth, the ones who believed that the only way to a better future is by trusting and following Mussolini. So these were the fascists, the ones who joined the Fasci di Combattimento, and the ones who made up the original group of people who believed in Mussolini and in his ability to bring about a change. So Mussolini, through his charm and character, therefore put together an army of followers. And these followers were known as the fascists. Now, many of these fascists who voluntarily joined also were armed and were dressed in black. They were to act as the paramilitary organization of the fascist movement, the one which brings everything into order by the use of brute force. Now, these black shirts, as they were called, because of the attire that they wore, were responsible for bringing order and also were the ones that Mussolini used to suppress his opposition. Let us see who really these black shirts were. So this happens to be the symbol of the black shirts, the emblem that they wore on their uniforms, the black uniforms. Now see if you can find something common in this particular symbol. That is right, this happens to be the fascist symbol, the one we spoke about in the very beginning while discussing fascism, and the one which was the ideological basis for the fascist movement. So when Mussolini organized his movement into Fasci di Combattimento, he felt that he now needs military strength. After all, even though his movement was organized, why would someone take it seriously if it has no kind of force to back it up with? That is why Mussolini started a voluntary militant group within the movement, which was called the Squadristi. A voluntary militant group is like an army, but which is private and which does not have any ties to a national government. We often think that only the government or a country can have military force as it can have an army. But as we can see in case of the fascists, that was not the case. Mussolini already was on his way to prepare his own militia, an army of people who were loyal to only him. So these militant group, which was called the Squadristi, they were based on ancient Roman organization. That is, their organizational ranks were in remembrance of the Roman times and how the Roman order was settled. This was done so that the militants can feel that they are restoring the glory of the Roman times, the glory of Italy. And they were heavily armed and dressed in black. And that is where the black shirt name comes from. Now, these militants were primarily ex-military with combat experience. That means that the people who joined this voluntary militant group were primarily ex-soldiers. Those who did not have any training were also trained. Now we can understand a very clear objective of the Squadristi. People who already know how to fight are being given weapons and now are asked to back up the fascist movement. Therefore, they were prepared to help Mussolini seize power when the time is right. Now you might wonder what really was the need for having a private militia or militant group or a private army to back up the movement. Well, Mussolini wanted to make sure that there are no thorns on his way to power. He wanted to eliminate any political opposition which can stop him from rising to ultimate power. And therefore, these black shirts who were armed and trained were used to intimidate and even eliminate the opposition. Who really was the opposition for Mussolini? The socialists and the communists. And therefore, these militants used brute force and violence to tackle the political rivals, which were the socialists and communists. They used to go to the areas where the socialists and communists have control and often throw these government leaders who were socialists and communists out of their offices, showing that Mussolini is the new power in Italy. Now, these militants were loyal to their debts to Mussolini, who they considered to be their commandant general. The black shirts therefore were ready to act at one single command from Mussolini. And we will see where this command comes in. Now, at their height, the black shirts numbered about 200,000. This is when Mussolini will march on to Rome to seize power. The exact reason why he created a militant group was so that it would back him with military support when he would seize power. Now, what happened to these black shirts when the fascist government was established? Well, that was done. The black shirts became the Volunteer Militia for National Security of Italy, or the Milizia, which was an elite paramilitary organization of the fascist government. In fact, they were also used in the Italian occupation of Abyssinia or Ethiopia in Africa in 1935, and also they fought in the Second World War on the Italian side as one of the most elite sections or segments of the Italian army. So we see that Mussolini had organized his movement, and now he also has at his disposal a private military force which he can use to tackle his political opponents. But what he really needs was political legitimacy or political power, without which all his actions and all his acquisitions would be considered as mere nuisances. That is why on 9th November 1921, Mussolini formed the National Fascist Party during the third fascist conference which he conducted. Now the Fasci di Combattimento, or other paramilitary organization or movement, gets converted into a legitimate political party. And this is what Mussolini truly needed. The party therefore gave a more formal political structure to the previous paramilitary organization, and it got so much support from the people that in the 1921 national elections, the Fascist Party happened to win 35 seats in the parliament when it joined the National Bloc's coalition, which was a couple of parties which are anti-socialists coming together. And when the Fascist Party joined this coalition, the people voted the Fascist Party to the parliament, and Mussolini himself became a member of the parliament. This was a huge victory for the Fascist Party and a big personal victory for Mussolini as well, as this gave him the message that people want him in power. Now the fascist, the symbol which we saw is derived from ancient Roman times, was adapted as the symbol of the party. You can see over here the fascist symbol against the flag of Italy, which became the fascist party's symbol. The reason the fascist symbol was adopted is because the fascist party derives its ideology from it, and it also has ties to ancient Rome, the glory of Italy. Now, even though the party had political legitimacy, it did lack some kind of ideology, aims, and ambitions. A set of ambitions written down in paper. Mussolini went about to get that codified. But he knew one thing for sure without even any codification. He wanted to rule Italy. Now, can you answer this question? The dash was adopted as the symbol of the party. The fascist, the star, the hammer, or the sickle. The correct answer happens to be the fascist. So we just mentioned that Mussolini had one thing clear in his mind. He wanted to rule Italy. But he knew that the time needs to come for that. And he felt that in 1922, the time was ripe for a fascist takeover of Italy. The fascist movement was now a recognized and popular national party. Mussolini was in the parliament. The black shirts already had strategic areas of Italy under their control. And one thing was clear, the people wanted Mussolini to be their leader. That is why in October 1922, Mussolini organized a conference of the fascist party at Naples, a city in Italy. This is where he gave out a very stern declaration in a very heated speech. Mussolini declared that an immediate fascist takeover of the Italian state needs to happen. And this was non-negotiable. The government either has to give the power to the fascist party or they will take them themselves by force. Now, Mussolini therefore gave out a declaration of the handover of the Italian government and sent it over to the government itself. The government, however, considered this to be a bluff, thinking that the fascist party clearly does not have enough power to really seize the power of administration from them, and therefore they rejected this declaration. But what do you think? Did Mussolini really have the power to seize the power from the government? Well, here is a picture where we see Mussolini is leading the black shirt army. So clearly we remember that he did have a private army at his disposal, and he also had enough political legitimacy by this point of time. So what do you think that Mussolini did in this particular situation where his stern declaration was rejected? What is it that Mussolini said in the declaration? He clearly said, I remind you again, that either the government will be given to us or we will seize it by marching on to Rome. So did Mussolini really then march on to Rome, the capital of Italy, when the declaration was rejected? If you know Mussolini by now, the answer must be clear to you. Mussolini immediately launched a march onto Rome where thousands of black shirts and fascists from all over the country joined him in the process of seizing power from the Italian government. Therefore, let us learn about this historically important march on to Rome. When the Italian government rejected Mussolini's demands, he did exactly what he said he would do. On 24th October 1922, Mussolini declared a march on to Rome from Milan, and upon which thousands and thousands of fascist members and black shirts started to march on to Rome from different parts of the country. A thread which the Italian government thought is a bluff, and they thought they could easily sway the fascists away. But when the Prime Minister saw these men marching into Rome, he realized how much of a threat it was, and now he wanted to declare a state of siege or an emergency, a power in which the government can take steps it otherwise could not, like launching the army against the protesters. When the Prime Minister took this declaration to the king, because the king could give assent, he decided not to give the assent because he felt the fascists are too powerful and they would take away his power and even declare civil war in Italy. And therefore, he rejected the state of siege declaration, and the protesters, the black shirts, kept on coming into Rome. In the night between 27th and 28th October 1922, 30,000 black shirts marched all across Rome demanding the government's resignation. And finally the government resigned because they feared civil war, and ultimately even the Prime Minister had to resign, which cleared the path for Mussolini. Mussolini, overjoyed and happy for getting exactly what he wanted, now decided to finally arrive in Rome by train, and this is when he came over to take power. Therefore, we saw Mussolini's march on to Rome, a historic move taken on his part by which he was able to get power from the Italian government. But if you will know, Mussolini did not immediately go in to take power. He patiently waited. He knew the government is out of the equation, but he still waited for a formal declaration that Mussolini would be the new leader. And he did that so that he would become the next leader on constitutional grounds. He did not want to be remembered as a leader who took power. Because a person who took power, his power can also be taken away. He wanted his position to be solidified, and therefore his wait continued. Mussolini's wait finally ended when the king called upon him to accept the role of the prime minister. This is when the king realized that after Luigi's resignation, there simply was no other way than to ask Mussolini to take up the office of the prime minister. Mussolini finally, therefore, went to the king's palace and took upon the office on 31st October 1922, while the black shirts were marching and cheering across the streets of Rome, which itself was a sign of fascist power. Now, here is a picture where we see Mussolini giving his first speech as the prime minister, while we see a sea of people cheering on to him. Now, there's only some time between Mussolini taking up the role of the prime minister and him becoming a dictator. And that is the transition we would be discussing in the upcoming lecture. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers, or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.